Welcome to Hiring Happy Humans, where we talk about all things HR with a variety of folks, from CEOs to community partners, sharing up-to-date trends, best practices, and our wild workplace stories. Each interview is designed to leave you with the knowledge to keep your sanity. I'm your host, Dawn Sipley of Sipley the Best. Thanks for joining in, and let's jump into this week's episode. Welcome back, everybody. This is Dawn Sipley with Sipley the Best with Hiring Happy Humans. Well, today I'm just so excited to have Pamela joining us here with the City of Sanford. I've gotten to know Pamela a little bit better here more recently when I signed up for Citizens Academy. So here in the City of Sanford, I both live and own a business. And so I thought it prudent to learn a little bit more about my city. I thought I already knew a lot, but Pamela was just a plethora of knowledge. So if you are a City of Sanford resident, I would highly encourage you to participate in this. I believe they do it twice a year.
That's correct.
And it's several weeks. You meet once a month and you're able to go to amazing places like Public Works. You get to learn more about the fire and police responsibilities, some of the administrative duties and the history of the city, and even a whole lot about the future of the city. And that's kind of what brings Pamela here today, because Pamela works in economic development. Now, as an HR director that's worked with hundreds of companies across Central Florida, one thing that I've really realized is a lot of small business owners don't know about the resources that are available to them through their local government. Right. So people like Pamela are a great contact to know. And so we're just going to learn a little bit more about what is economic development in the sense of government, what is their job duties and responsibilities, and then more specifically, how can they serve us as small business owners? Because at the end of the day, all cities are made up of citizens and business owners and organizations that are close and nearby, because we're also in Seminole County, and Seminole County is in Florida, and just the economics go on and on. So welcome, Pamela. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Dawn. Thank you. In simplistic terms, economic development, we look at bringing new businesses to the city, retaining our businesses in the city, and growing them within our city. We want them to grow and flourish here. And, we're also their voice for them. With government, we like to bridge that gap between government, the public sector, and the private sector, because sometimes people in the private sector feel a little overwhelmed. They don't know where to start. And we think it's very important to let them know that we care about them. We recognize they could have located anywhere, and they chose the City of Sanford, and we appreciate that they're here. They're not just a name and a number to us. They matter to us. And it's very important that they know that we want to help them however we can.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I love about the city is our uniqueness. We seem to have things that no other city in Seminole County, maybe Central Florida, has. We have rail, we have air, we have water, we have malls, we have historic, we have industrial. Like it's just so much. Are we sectioned out in any kind of way? How would you describe our demographics?
Well, I would tell you that when it comes to both demographics, and we have what I'd call economic engines, which we've talked about before, but we have primarily four areas, which I'm glad you brought that up. One is what we call our retail powerhouse area, which is near the mall. And malls, as you know, are really changing right now. They're like being a chameleon. You can go all around, and it's not just here. It's thanks to the AMP punch, right? The Amazon and the pandemic. It did its malls, right? So a lot of malls are changing, like Elevate coming in a few years ago in that entire Sears space. And we're continuing to see interest in changing that mall more so. I do want to point out there are several different owners to that mall. So many times people see that and think that you can just easily make a change when in fact you can't necessarily do so because they're tied under an agreement together. But anyways, we've had discussions with potential multifamily developers over near the Macy's parcel. And we believe that if you build that kind of foot traffic near a large structure like that, you will give it a higher probability of doing better over there. So we're hopeful for that. And of course, Reinhardt Road is known for having all types of restaurants and retail along it, as well as WP Boulevard area. So that area is doing just fine. But hugging that area is another economic engine, what we like to call, our WIC, our Western Industry Commerce Area.
Yes.
Which we have a lot of industrial, very exciting businesses, everything from Hernon Manufacturing, who does these adhesives, to Dot Decimal, who literally makes for the individual patient cancer treating, saving, they're basically curing cancer. It's amazing.
Yeah.
To the Crane Institute of America, where people fly from all over the world to get certified, utilizing cranes, to the Truck Driver Institute. And we've seen some new industrial go up right at St. John's Parkway and the Airport Boulevard area. It's very, very exciting right now. And not just that, that's in close proximity to another economic engine, the airport.
Yes.
So the airport has hundreds of acres of available land, flight ready, or runway ready, if I may, also flight ready. And the airport has a lot of acreage over there and around that area, because as we're building out the city, like in many cities, the bookends move. They move, right? And then they have this vacant land. And what happens? You drive by and you see something being built. So it's exciting times right now. And so the airport has a lot of potential land for aviation and non-aviation businesses. And then, of course, our fourth economic engine is the downtown. Yeah. So that's really where our charm is, our character. When you talk about demographics, we pull in such a draw, everything from young millennials all the way to very mature individuals. And the restaurants do too. If you go to, for example, Hollerbach's is an example. It's a perfect example. They have 700 seats. They seat 8,000 people a week. Wow. And you've got everything from really young families with their children to very mature individuals enjoying a night out, and everything from, after that, getting handmade marshmallows across the street to maybe someone who likes to go antiquing. And we're finding the younger ages are actually going back to a retro time, which is interesting. Yes, they are. Right?
Yeah.
It's
interesting. I got a 15-year-old and a 20-year-old at home, and thrifting is all the rage.
I mean, it is the latest thing. It's interesting. Yeah. So they're kind of molding in with the individuals that are more seasoned or mature. So it's a very exciting time. So some might think, oh, you just have a couple antique shops. Well, we have so much more than that down here. And we're also seeing, a little more retail as well, because we do think there's a balance with downtown. Well, what are you going to do after you eat, right? You need somewhere else to go. So in addition to like our Triple Goddess, there's a cute boutique that just opened. There's
even experiences. We have Board and Brush and the escape room right here in our building.
The escape room. You got the Barbara Lee, which we have the boat right on the marina where people can go out and be entertained, enjoy a lovely view of the lake, and have lunch or dinner.
Yeah. So we even have those docks down there where you can come in off the waterway and join us from Sanford from water instead of highway.
Most definitely. And I can tell you in the future, while it's very early stages, we're looking into water taxis even to go across. So we're looking into it, nothing definitive right now. Right. But we're multimodal here, Dawn. We've got golf carts, we have boating. So, we have the trolley, which we offer free to visitors. And the CRA has fully funded that the entire time. So that's very helpful as well. So it's a very exciting times for us. So those what I would say are our four primary economic engines. I would say demographically, we pull in a significant amount of an age range. It's not just the young millennials enjoying a brewery. You'll see all different ages, which I think is really exciting that we cater to such a wide range. And I think it's important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, for small business owners that might be looking at coming to the area or going anywhere, right? Because the principles will typically stay the same. What is some good, solid advice as someone starting a business, they're buying or renting a brick and mortar? How should they interface with their government to make sure that their business dreams become a reality?
Okay. I think that's a great question. I think there's a couple things twofold. Let me start by saying, I think it depends what type of business they open in some ways, because we have Workspace Collective that's coming on board, which is a co-working space at 311.
Beautiful space.
Right, 311 East First Street. They're in the early stages right now. We're very excited about that. And that building's over 100 years old, and it's sat vacant for several years. So right now, in fact, there's a 150th Sanford Fire Department mural being painted on the side of it. So that mural will be 77 feet long by 16 feet high. And the side of that building is 99 feet long. You didn't realize how large it was, but it's a pretty big scale one. So that's very exciting. But back to what you were saying, I think for a small business owner, if they're not right away wanting to get through a serious commitment of a brick and mortar, and they want to start out and kind of test the waters, depending on the type of business they have, they may want to rent co-working space from either Workspace Collective, who will be up and running later in the year, or at 209 San Carlos, there's a property that's been recently renovated and it's beautiful in there, and they have a similar concept. So they could do that. But for somebody who may want to go ahead and dive in, they're ready. Again, with the type of business, for example, Henry's Depot, if they had an availability for a small restaurant because someone really has heard over their life, oh, you cook so great, you should open a restaurant, right? They may want to try there if there's space. If it's somebody who wants to either rent or own on their own somewhere, I would say always, always, always check with the jurisdiction. I mean, we sure hope it's in the city of Sanford. So give me a call if you'd like. I'll be the ombudsman. I'll help get you the information. Or I would say, you know, the county, wherever you're looking to locate, because realtors and real estate representatives, I really believe they're good-hearted and they're trying to give you the best information. However, they aren't the decision makers when it comes to the planning and zoning. And we have seen situations where a new business owner has come in, executed a lease long-term, and found out they could not do what they wanted there, or they couldn't open as quickly as they wanted, because some renovations needed to be made to a space that sat vacant for many years. So it's very important to really understand what are their costs. Can they do what they want to at that space? And if not, we'll try to find you a space where you can do what you want to do. But again, I can't wave the magic wand and be like, yes, you know. So as much as we want to work with you, we do have to follow policies so we're completely fair across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with Sanford having a large historic area, what kinds of things should they be on a lookout for if they're in that historic area? Are there extra steps or regulations around that?
Thank you for asking that, Dawn. Yes, there definitely are. If they want to locate within the historic district, or especially a historic building, it's very, very important there are extra steps involved. We have a historic preservation board. For example, brick that's never been painted, you know, that's remained, you cannot paint over that brick. So can you imagine someone just coming in there and painting? So, but a perfect example is 311 East First Street. On the side of that building, it was stucco where the Sanford mural's going. So it could go there. It could be painted on there. The front of the building, though, will remain the brick that it is. So there are ways that we can work with you. There are ways we can show you how you can do what you want most of the time. And if not, we'll try to figure out a way that we can come to a common ground where you can do what you would like.
Okay. And so is it the preservation board that they would reach out to if that was?
It would be Julie Schofield, who's the historic planner. She's within the planning department. Okay. And so she's located at City Hall on the second floor. Okay. So they would reach out to her, and, you know, we keep a very tight communication. So anything that I have come in or she comes in, we talk with each other to make sure that we're on the same page.
Fantastic. Now, say someone's moving to the area, they get into an old building, but that can be very expensive. Renovations can be very expensive. Is there any kind of incentives or programs that help those business owners make that investment? Okay, well, here's what I can tell you. Our downtown area primarily, you know, there's a boundary, but primarily most of the downtown area falls within what's called a community redevelopment area, or CRA for short. So the CRA has 3 different types of grants. One is called a new construction grant, which is just what that is. It's a new construction. An example of that is the Philco construction building, Brian Foreman on Park Avenue. Right behind this building, he built a new building. And so taking up that whole parking lot, just I'm in Wakala, and so it's been a trip dealing with his construction. It's beautiful though. I love the double roll up
the
doors
routed
and
letters and
the
everything. It's
aesthetics of it
gorgeous.
is gorgeous.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's an example of a new construction. And then there's commercial redevelopment projects as well. So you might buy an existing building, like again, 311 East First Street, and want to do some renovations, which can be quite costly, especially over 100 years old. So in those cases, there are specific grant criteria and an application that's submitted with a lot of supporting documentation.
Okay.
And then the third grant is called a facade grant, which is for exterior improvements.
Okay.
But there's caps for all of them with dollar amounts. There's specific criteria that they have to meet. Things have to be done within a certain timeline. And there's no given. It's dependent on funding availability. I make recommendations as the executive director. The CRA board makes decisions as the board. So there's no given. Many times people think that because they fill out an application, it means they're just going to get some money. So
same goes for jobs, guys. Just because you complete the application doesn't mean you get the job.
Right.
Okay, good to know.
Yes.
Now that CRA is sunsetting, correct? So that means that it's going away and those funds won't be available after 2025?
Yes. So basically in 1995, the CRA was created. And it was given initially a 20-year period, and it was to expire in 2015. And by Florida statute, by law, they could ask for one 10-year extension, which they did do. So that puts us at the end of 2025. We cannot extend that CRA anymore. Now there's a closeout period. So projects that have commenced actually started before that end date in 2025 have a year to get them closed out. But you cannot start the project after that, nor vote on any of that after that.
Okay. Good to know. Fantastic. Now, say someone's already here and they've been in business, they're doing business, but you know, the climate has changed, something has gone awry. How does someone know who to reach out to at the government level? I know when I had worked closely with the economic development director that had previously been there, we did a lot of interviewing, and I found it really interesting that people didn't know where to go when they were disgruntled or frustrated with something. So where's a good starting place?
Right. I would say it depends on what they're disgruntled with. Is it a city process? Is it something at a higher level where maybe they're needing assistance from the SBA? You know, it depends on what their actual issue is. Many times people have come to us and it ends up being more of like, for example, a familial issue within their business, where it's almost like they come to us, not for like therapeutic reasons, but there's really nothing from a city standpoint. You can't get in the middle of two private owners having a disgruntled situation.
Right. They have a contractual kind of thing.
Right. So many times, you know, we've seen that before where each one will come to us about something. And so we handle that as delicately and politely as we can. But if it's city related, I don't turn people away if it's a different department. I try to connect them and then I follow up with them to make sure whatever was addressed, because I'll give you an example. Code enforcement has nothing to do with what I do.
Right.
But somebody may have been served some type of a code enforcement thing. So I'll walk over, I'll say, let me get all the information. I'm going to call you back. Let's say, for example, tomorrow by 4. I make sure I call them whether I have that answer or not, because I want to build their trust, because they feel less than happy maybe with some services, you know. There's always 3 sides to the story. So
generally speaking, is the commissioner of the area that their business in a good place to just start? Like, hey, I'm frustrated. What do I do? Could that commissioner guide them?
Absolutely. Our commissioners are very well versed. We certainly try to take the brunt away from them as staff and do what we can, because our job really is staff. We want to protect the commissioners as well. But I would say, yes, if they would like to bring an issue or concern to their attention, that is most definitely what they're there for. They're there to be their voice in their district. And I must say, they all do a very good job at doing so. So yes, they can start with their commissioner,
Okay.
but a lot of times too, as staff will hear things and we'll make sure that they know, because you don't want someone getting side blinded by something if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. What is one thing that you find, if you could just wave your magic wand and give people the knowledge of, or like the understanding of, that you find elementary because you've been in the government sector so long, but if you could just give people something, what would that be?
I think a greater understanding of processes from start to finish in the planning process. What they don't realize is our planners do work very hard. And when they, I should say they, because it's planning, when they make comments to plans, address them. You know, if you submit the same plans back and don't really address them and then complain to everyone why it's taking so long, there's a reason. It's because you're not addressing the comments. So, you know, there's a reason they try to give you those comments and try to expedite it. Believe me, they'd love nothing more than to bring you through the process, because we get a significant amount of things, right? So I would say just a greater knowledge of processes and patience with the process. Okay, that's good to know. Education is just such a key thing to easing a lot of frustration, because if you understand what's going on in the background, it can ease a lot of frustration, I'm sure. Right. So I do have a lot of Sanfordites that follow us. And one of my favorite things about Citizens Academy's little bus tour that we did was, you know, being in the know on what's up and coming. And we've got some really fascinating projects that are upcoming here in Sanford. Can you just give us a little bit of the highlight reel of some of the exciting stuff that's coming up? I'll just go off my head. And of course, some key ones, not all ones. Okay. The Wildflower opened on May 10th in the former Smiling Bison space. Oh, and what is that? That's a restaurant, I assume? It's like a gastropub. They have some entrees, tapas, as well as cocktails, adult beverages. Okay. So you might want to check that out. Yes, I will. All over the city, you know, behind Bahama Breeze, there should be 114 key hotel. I believe it's Ever Suites or Ever Homes. It should be over there. Okay. Ford's Garage will be opening along Reinhardt Road. Really? Yep, interesting. We're going to be getting that restaurant. And we do find a lot of our chains are along Reinhardt Road. It works well there. I can tell you Culver's and Dutch Brothers are going side by side down 1792. If you cross where the discount tire area is near the auto parts store, they're going to be right there. Oh, that's very, I just gained 10 pounds. That Butterburger. Oh, please. The concretes. I know. And then over where the Chase was tore down, which is in the Lowe's out parcel next to Racetrack. Yep. That's going to be a Starbucks. I heard about that. Okay. And then there's going to be a restaurant called La Braza. It's going to be over in the retail center facing behind the Waffle House. There's strip center there with the Sporta and everything. There'll be a La Braza over there. Is that what is that? It's a small type of a restaurant. Okay. With a Latin cuisine, I believe. Okay. And La Granja recently opened, and that's across from Colorado's. Yes, the old Pizza Hut. Correct. Yes. It's delicious. If you haven't tried it, please do. It's amazing. I know. I went there and I was like, wow, this is great. Yeah. So we do have all types of things going on, and it's just very exciting. A lot of things in the hopper coming forward. A lot of our old buildings, as you can see, are breathing new life, which we're very excited about. It is not the city of a decade ago. That is for sure. It would be unrecognizable to many if they haven't been here in a while. Correct. All right. Well, Pamela, I always love to ask my guests one question at the end. You've had an amazing career, many of those years serving our community through your government service. If you could tell your younger self just one thing that would make things a little easier, what would that piece of advice be? I would say that it's not unreasonable at 18 to know exactly what you want to do. But I would say in the meantime, you should position yourself. So you should at least obtain a job, some type of
Right.
volunteering or an internship to build your resume. Put something on that resume.
Yeah.
And not just that, make it a little bit of a length. Even though you're young, if you can stick it out a year, I think that looks very good. And I would say in the meantime, look at what makes you happy. Look at what makes you smile. You know, whether it's making a difference with service or bringing a project to fruition, tap into what makes you happy. And I think when you're that young and you're living in an environment, you know, environments are a funny thing. Your parents, many times people say you're a product of your environment, and they push these ideas on the children so much that they literally believe that's what they want to do. So they go to years of schooling, they go to college, they go to university, thousands and thousands of dollars. They get ready to graduate and they say, I don't want to do this. And they realize at that point, the light bulb came on that it was really not what they wanted. It was what their family wanted. So I think if they can do it, and it's hard sometimes to have that voice, you know, because you've heard, as long as you're under my roof, you'll be home by this time. As long as you're under my roof, you're going to do this. So I would say that I would hope that they could communicate with their parents tactfully, or whoever they're living with, who's giving them these ideas. And sometimes those people try to live their dreams through their children. Maybe they didn't go to college, or they didn't go to a trade school.
You were preaching. You know, many interviews I do of people who have had an awakening after what they consider is wasted time or lost years. And I would venture to say nothing is ever wasted or lost. Beauty can come from what you think are ashes, really. And so but I totally understand what you're saying, kind of waking up one day and just going, this isn't my dream. You know, this was what some people would call a shared dream, right? Or a given dream, where we're told what we dream, you know, and we
to
just
the point where they believe it, to the point where they believe it. So I would say, when you don't really know what you want to do yet, it's okay. But I would start to tap into figuring out what you really like. Do you really like animals? Maybe you want to be a vet tech or a vet. Maybe you want to go to a technical school and learn a skill. Maybe you want to be an AC person. It makes you happy, you know? So I think it's important, because ultimately that person will probably go back to what they really want to do. It might take some years, and you see this, you know this better than anybody, but I would say, don't be afraid to use your voice.
I love it. I love it. That's solid advice for anyone of any age. Thank you so much, Pam, for joining me today and just giving us some highlights about how our local government serves us as business owners. I think a lot of folks will learn something and have the knowledge and ability to reach out to their government officials when they have a challenge in their lap.
Okay, well, thank you for having me, Dawn. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thanks again for spending time with us today. If you want more HR stories and resources, go to simplythebest.com to join our newsletter. That's SIPLEY. Until next time, stay happy.